Social media, I mean, there was Facebook, but there was no Instagram, there were no blogs, there was no Pinterest, there was nothing. Okay, so my name is Melissa, and I am a mom of three, and I grew up in Annapolis, and I am a photographer. I have my own business, a photography business that I started myself, and I've been in business for about 12 years now. So I started when I was uh, 33. No, wait. Nope, 23. Um, and I was newly married and wanted to set up a business so that I could take care of my kids and not have to put them in daycare. I was working at a desk job at the time on base, and I really did not enjoy doing that, and wanted to start something of my own. So I just kind of did it, and naturally worked itself out, and I was able to do just that. So I didn't have to send my kids to daycare, and yeah, it's just been growing ever since, which is awesome. So I decided to major in business. Knew I wanted to do some sort of business in college, just because I was not an engineer, and I wasn't really super artsy either. But I knew that business. I think my degree. I have a bachelor's in marketing, so that was within the business school in college. But wanted something more on the creative side, not necessarily like the financial side. So I actually started out in accounting, which is really awesome because I learned like basic bookkeeping skills, which I use in my business today. So I actually use a lot of what I did in college to run my business. Um, well, I wanted to be my own boss. I didn't like working for other people. um, so I always knew I wanted to run a business someday. I just didn't know what it would look like or what I would actually do. So um, I've always kind of been a starter. So I started the field hockey team when I was in high school, and have just always kind of been starting things my whole life, really. And so I knew I just wanted to do the business side of things, and photography was just kind of something I fell into, really. In college, my final elective when I was a senior, I was already married. I got married when I was 21, so it was pretty early to get married. My final elective in college was photography, and I was like, oh, that'll be easy. And for projects, I started having to take pictures of certain things like sports events and families and kids on the move and things like that. And it just kind of naturally worked into that. And I just really loved it. So I didn't really choose it. It just kind of fell into it. I really love talking to people and getting to know people and their stories. I think that's a big part of why maybe I've grown in the photography industry, is because, it's not just showing up and doing the job. I get to know these families and know their stories. And a lot of my clients I've had for since I started, they keep coming back, and I love that because I get to know them. And so really it's about relationships, forming relationships with other people. Um, Probably managing my time. um, because I can kind of define my own hours and take on as much or as little as I want, which is really nice. But um, me as a person, it's hard to say no to things, especially when they're my friends. Or I've established these relationships, so I consider my clients my friends, and just kind of balancing out the work and the family. So most of what I do is weddings. I photograph people getting married. So that is wonderful in itself. I like to pray for every family before I jump into a wedding, just because that's a big part of who I am. And, really you're just seeing these couples starting their lives together. I mean, where you are now feels so big, but in the grand scheme of things, like, you're just building to where you're going to go. And I think that's exciting. But um, I think, when you get married, for a lot of people, some people don't have a desire to get married, and that's fine. But I think for these people, it's a hugely important day, the biggest day of their lives, that up to that point. So to be a part of that is really special for me. And then I've had some of my brides, my couples that I photograph their weddings, they hire me for their babies and, for their parents' 50th anniversaries and things like that. So they come back to me for other big milestones in their lives. And that's really amazing. That's a good question. As far as photography goes, there's not a big, it doesn't take a lot of money to get started, which is nice. And that's why I think a lot of people do go into photography. Um, but that wasn't necessarily a challenge. I would say that there are a lot of people in the industry in photography. So I guess it took me a little while to figure out what made me different from all the other photographers. So establishing my voice and why people should choose me over the 50 other photographers in Southern Maryland. And it did take me a long time to figure that out. So I would say that's probably the biggest challenge. That is a really good question. And uh, not just in photography specifically, but in business, and being in business for yourself is really um, dedication. There's a big work ethic to go along with that. And I've always worked and I've always enjoyed working. When I was 14, I got, the worker's permit that you can get in high school to be able to work early. And I always, my parents expected me to have a job because I had to pay for all my supplies in college. So I had to start saving early. But I would say, so I've always had that work ethic, and my parents really instilled that in me. And I am so grateful for that because I don't think I would have lasted as long as I have, if I didn't have that dedication. Because if I don't have work, it's because of me. Um, so you have to be a self-starter. You really have to be willing to work hard and to kind of do like not fun things. Kind of be humble enough to accept the fact that you're probably gonna, I don't know, do some really not fun things. Let's see, attributes, successful. I think you really have to be attentive to people, and sensitive to people as well. You're going to work with lots of different kinds of people, and some are not going to be nice. And if someone's not nice to me, I get really upset at that. I don't have a thick skin, and that's hard sometimes to overcome, a challenging personality to work with. Thankfully, when you have your own business, you can choose who you work with. So that's it's also a bonus. But I would say hard work, dedication. This is a big one, and something I still struggle with a lot of times is managing. I mentioned it before, managing that like work-life balance and time management. Not spending lots of times doing things that won't make a difference in what I'm doing, big picture wise. So a lot of times, a lot of my work is on the weekends, and now my kids are older, they're all in school now. But when they were babies, it was really nice because I would be home during the week and my husband would come and take over so that I could go and work on weekends. But now all my kids are in sports and I'm still working on the weekends. So I'm missing out on some of that family time. So really now, where I used to do so many weddings and other shoots on the weekends, now I'm trying to move in a different direction and not take on as many weddings and portraits, and really go towards, small businesses, and marketing. I have that marketing background. So kind of moving in that a different direction. So it's still my own business. It's just not as much work on the weekends, in an effort to kind of protect my family, because the family's most important. And I will say, having a very supportive husband, or partner is, super important as well, because especially if there are kids involved, because there's you ask, a lot falls on them as well. So I would say that's a really, really big thing. So faith is a really big part of my life. I've always been a Christian, and well, I guess like middle school, I really like owned it for myself. I don't know if you guys are Christian or Catholic or whatever. My kids go to Catholic school, and I feel like that's a very different form of faith for me. I decided to dedicate my life to Christ when I was in middle school, and have really just kind of stayed the course. It's really taken lots of different shapes, and you know, it's not always been as strong as it has been in other points in my life. But I always stay connected, or I try to, with a Bible study. So I'm a part of Bible Study Fellowship International. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's called BSF International. It's a really great Bible study program. My parents did it when I was younger, and it's really just studying the Bible. So I find that as long as I'm engaged in God's word, and actually like studying the Bible, and not just for myself, but like with other people, that fellowship is a big aspect, relationships, and not just going to church either. Like, this Bible study is very separate, is really helps keep me grounded and focused, and really focused on what I'm doing and why it matters and what I'm doing it for. So it feels really good to be successful and have, lots of clients that come back to me year after year. But like, what does all that mean? What is it? What's the goal? Like, am I doing this for my own glory, or am I doing this for God's glory? So it's really important for me to step back, and I have to do it often to step back and remember why I'm doing these things, not just for my own, because it makes me feel good, but because when I pray for couples before weddings, like, it's drawing them hopefully closer to God, and for myself, where I can really be invested in building these relationships, to maybe when my couples or my clients see me, they're really seeing Jesus. And that's really big for me. I'm going to cry talking about that. It's really special. And for me, it's very important. Major in business. I would not recommend pursuing an art degree unless you are highly talented in like painting or something that's much more technical. And a lot of those things I feel like can be learned or developed along the way. You definitely grow as an artist the more you practice at it. As far as like technical advice goes, yeah, you can never go wrong with a business degree. It is so valuable. And it really teaches you tons of skills, like life skills that, you can use in any field that you go into. That would be my biggest, I think that's really like my biggest thing. And then I would just say, I guess in the industry itself, in photography, there's so many people, and everyone really is kind of competing against each other. And that can either close you off, and really focus on yourself, or it can open up other relationships. So, a lot of my other friends in photography have become some of my closest friends because, I can't do it all. And I don't want to take on every wedding that comes my way. And there are lots of other talented photographers in the area that are just like me. You know, they're moms and they're business owners and they're doing this to support their families. So I would say instead of just competing with everybody else, um, make friends with them. And it doesn't have, you don't have to share all your secrets, but I really do think that relationships matter, not just within your client base, but you know, with peers as well. Nope, no, I did not. My dad was always taking pictures, and I've just always had a camera, but never knew that that's what I wanted to do. Okay, so this is going to blow your little minds because you guys in high school? So when I was in college, and this is going to make me sound really old. So social media, I mean, there was Facebook, but there was no Instagram, there were no blogs, there was no Pinterest, there was nothing. So, and Facebook was purely for talking to people. It wasn't for engaging with businesses or shopping or anything like that. So it was, that was not a part of my business degree. So a lot of pretty much everything that I do now for my business with technology what did not exist 10 years ago. So, you know, I think it's just one of those things. Business owners are scrappy. They're going to do what it takes to make their business succeed. And you can either stay behind the times and fail or not last, or you can challenge yourself to stay up with the times and invest in education and continue learning. Learning doesn't stop. And I think that's a really big thing. And it changes so fast that you really have to make sure you stay up with it. Otherwise you lose out on business. So really for me, it's become a business decision to stay engaged and to stay updated so that I can reach out to new clients, because it's not my age people who are getting married anymore. It's, you know, people who are a little older than you, Sarah. So it's important. That's where people are going. So for me, and I like doing it because I have nieces your age, and it's fun for me to be the cool aunt too. So I have to stay in the know. I have to be updated. So, but it is a big business decision. But there's so many resources out there now. It's not hard. You just have to spend some time to do it.